been sitting since 76.
Okay. The bulldozers will reclaim it the rest of the way, and how soon will this be pushing crops? Season or two? Another awesome thing. We're mid-morning and it's gonna be 95 today. Out the vents, it is frosty. You're saying you'll have to cut trees down to get it out? Yeah. I should have brought my flashlight. Oh wow.
It's missing the radiator cap and the gear shifter.
Yeah.
The mirror got broke off. It's complete. That's one thing to say about it.
Yeah, how often do you find a old British roadster with wire wheels hanging out in the barn?
Tool for spare.
Yep.
I got old tool for it too.
Actually, I mean, other than the lower quarters and the floors, it's...
The other side's not like that. They must have had a battery, hold the battery back in the trunk for a while. Left it in there or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
This over here's got hardly nothing on it. Everything else here is superficial.
Yep. These are old box cars, aren't they?
Yep.
Put down.
I'll get this barn and have them move, put one in my backyard.
Put the box car in your backyard?
Yep. Get you one and maybe one of them tiny homes.
Yeah.
Tiny house.
The wood ends were probably, I don't know, 20s era maybe?
These here, I'm going to say they're late. Yeah, probably before that.
Yeah. Turn of the century or teens. I don't know when they started steel end. When my dad and I were doing that model railroad, we were trying to date the periods and not have too new or too old cars on the tracks.
I'm gonna say it's either turn of the century.
Yeah. Any guess if this engine turns?
I haven't taken it over yet.
Yeah.
I can't reach down in there to grab hold of it.
Yeah.
I'll wait till I get it outside, but you know, I can go ahead and pull the spark plugs out and squirt some little diesel fuel in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything crank.
Yeah.
But it's all been closed up, you know.
Yeah.
So I have to leave it in it till then. Grab hold of it by the front bumper and pick it up and shake it a little bit, get all the shit out of it.
Yeah, it's got the aftermarket roll bar. Yep, that wasn't a factory piece that I'm aware of. Could have been a catalog accessory, I guess, at the dealer.
Yeah, I think so. I'll take the one.
Twin SU carburetors. Yeah, this early 67 with the chrome bumpers is probably somewhat desirable.
I got title for it at the house, and it's been sitting since '76.
Okay. 1976. I might put my flashlight on and grab that fan if I can and see if it'll roll over at all. Yep, off it comes.
Yep, I can get them soaking.
A lot of grip, yeah.
Yeah, I can get them soaking. Pancake going on. Get them working.
Looks like they did keep it greased pretty good though. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. By the phone books and the license plate and the newspapers. Just left it behind. Wow. There'll be a lot of work to doze this. Concrete foundation to be a lot easier if it was still a rock foundation.
Yeah, my dad and my father put part of this bitch in years ago.
Oh, really? Couple lone yucca plants. Oh, wow. Mystery basement. This is actually inhabited way more recent than you'd think by the overgrowth of trees outside. Wow. Pretty basic, meager existence. Everything just left behind. Receipts for the last groceries. Wow. Oh wow, 2015 calendar. This was seriously inhabited within the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Gary's Feast Blockers. Yeah, that's my woodburner there. He broke the bottom of it. There's always wrong. He didn't want to try it. The board's on his hands.
Unbelievable. 9 short years for nature and vandals to totally reclaim it almost. The bulldozers will reclaim it the rest of the way. The bulldozers will reclaim it the rest of the way, and how soon Will this be pushing crops season or two?
Yeah.
Wow. Not much to save, no fancy woodwork or anything. They carried the water up from a well then?
No, I can go down and get it. That's when they bring it up.
Oh, they just bring it out in jugs. Wow.
It's not like I'm doing the tile right now.
Yeah. What's in the basement? Anything or water?
Got some jump shit.
Yeah.
I done it a few years ago.
Wow. Shower curtains, just a sheet of plastic. Crazy to say, the only thing I'd want out of here would be to transplant that yucca.
There you go. There's that saw there, you got the brake cover on it. I need that little thing of steel strap for the brake cover, spring brake. And it's on the side cover and it's gone.
Okay. No go then. That like a little wash house back there? Outhouse? Okay, I gotta go see that. There's the whole side of this house. The one thing I kind of find eerie about these old abandoned house properties is that there's always somewhere, not always, but there's a perennial flower bed that just keeps right on growing, regardless of whether anyone's still there or not. Yep, it is one old outhouse. Try to get around here. Oh yeah, that's a little rough to move. It is a two-holer. That's a no-holer. Oh, I see. One-holer. That thing's been totally filled in. Oh, but I need hardware is about all that's salvageable. That's it. There's the old chicken house. Yep. You go spend $1,200 for a chicken coop at the farm store that probably won't last 8 years. It's been there for 100.
Check out a bit, and then even King Construction done that work for them. We go in and smash the bridge like that one west of Cedric where Tom got killed. Suspension bridge had been there for 80, 100 years.
Yeah.
And then they put in a 20-year bridge.
Wow.
All the lifespan of these new bridges are 20-year bridge.
Wow. Yep.
Nice
Just chuck it out the window. Man. Yep.
Before Chuck moved in here, and I asked Tom and Sandy, I said they be interested. I was going to sell my house or rent my house and then move out here. And I said I can work on this place. I said, you know, because I built that room addition for them up there on their house. And we already kind of promised it to a friend of ours, really to a friend. Then you come find out it was Chuck. I said, oh shit, you got the laziest country in there.
There's a storm shelter over here. Storm cellar. Oh no, it's just a flipped over couch on an ash pile. Oh. This tricked me from 20 feet away. Up here there's a old windmill tower. That thing's actually still got the head on it. Oh, it's hard to see through the trees if that's... Yeah, it's all tore apart. A lot of these, they get that way, the wind will catch them and just rip them apart. But the blades are still good. There are people that'll sure buy windmills. But that one will probably end up wadded into a scrap load. Oh yeah. That's a wind charger, isn't it? It's got the little generator on it. That's a cute little thing, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, it's going as soon as I get a trailer out here.
Okay. Get a few saplings out of the way and straighten it out and...
I can do the sapling thing.
Yep. Yep. Another update on the 67 Chevys. This is one that I probably should have filmed going out and getting, because we had to get the thing out of the woods and chop trees, and I actually used one of the trees that we chopped and cut a nice straight log out of it and used this thing to roll up on here. This was a pretty dead car when I got it. He'd taken the rear axle out, so I basically had to drag it on the trailer. The frame was rusted and gone, so I actually did end up parting the two-door car to put this thing together. I shot a video before explaining all that, and it's just where the market is on these cars. Good two-door, nice two-door, struggles to bring 25,000 restored, and a good four-door restored all the way. It's got to be a hard top. They'll bring 50,000. So that's the reasoning for all that. It's got the desirable corner lights, front bumper guards. I can't believe these guards are not repro'd yet, so I'm trying to sell all my used ones before that happens, because the prices are still pretty strong for the used ones. This one is all pieced together and it's ready to go get inspected at the Highway Patrol and get a title. There's actually two more of these, so since this is going to be the project vehicle update video, we'll go take a look at them. The blue 67 Caprice. One of these earlier videos you guys saw, Joe and I went and got it from up in Nebraska. Of the three of these that I have, this one's by far the most solid. Came from the furthest west location that we picked up any of them, so it would make sense that the body's still real good. I've got pretty much all of the main pieces gathered for it. I still need to get a 67 Impala bench seat put in there and grab a hood to put on it. This one I've got the title in hand. We went and applied for it and it's come back already, so at any time it would be ready to go. The other two, I'm getting real close to taking them to inspect and get the titles processed. Basically, the goal on these is to put every major component that they need together with them that's not reproduced. So all the body pieces, the correct Impala bench seat without the flip down armrest, and all the pieces that you can't just go buy out of a catalog, and title them, and then they're rolling projects and they'll be available for sale. 67 Impala is the one that Joe and I went and got down by Austin at the end of 2023, and I've been slowly getting it pieced together. I've done the door latches on it, which I have a video that explains that whole process. This is the first car that I've had that I have not been able to get a latch open, and that's this passenger front door, and I'm fairly certain that something in there is either broken or fallen apart, because by all mechanical means I've done everything that should pop that, but that one gonna have to be replaced off of another parts car. One thing that I didn't mention in that video is the first piece, if a guy can get those locks working up and down, there's probably about a third of the latch parts that just that lock controls, and so you can kind of cheat ahead and save some effort and aggravation to get those latches working again. And this one you can see, obviously the floors are totally shot. The great thing is you can buy a whole floor pan assembly for these out of the catalog, and so that goes a long way to getting one ready to go. I do have front bumper guards for all these cars. This one I've got to do just a little more to get that steering put together and get an engine and transmission dropped in it. For the inspection, I have to have engine and transmission just sitting in there, but it doesn't have to be running. Another issue with this car is I think the rear end is locked up. It's been just sitting down in the dirt for so long that I'm afraid it's gotten some water in there and rusted some of the components. So the first thing I'm going to do is just try and drag this thing around and see if something in there will break loose, free up. Other than that, I may end up having to swap this out of a different car. Good morning, everybody. We're back with the 1980 LeSabre. Got it warming up here this morning. I would say the cold start on this is average. Pump the pedal a few times and crank on it, pump it some more, and it fires up. Usually the best choke setting for a carburetor is you stomp that pedal once, release it. That gives you a squirt from the accelerator pump and just resets that choke linkage, and then you crank until it fires. They'll hit right off. They'll go into high idle, let them warm up. Depending on the outside temperature, less on a warm day, more on a cold day, and then you stomp that pedal, takes it off the high idle, and you're ready to go. So there's a list of things to get caught up for maintenance on this car, and one of them is definitely the carburetor. I may try and adjust that or just send it off to be rebuilt. I've got a really good local carb guy here. He did the carburetor on my 1960 Chevy grain truck, which is now a trash truck for me. He did a really good job on that, so I have faith and confidence in him that when I get a car back, it's going to be right. And even if not, he definitely stands behind them and will do any adjustments that need to happen. Great news for this car, I did get plates for it, and so this is the maiden voyage on the highway. I actually really like driving this car. It's pretty smooth. Most of its power. I think there might be a little misfire there that we need to have a look at and take care of. Tell obviously the choppy exhaust. That thing's rusted all the way front to back, and it's a good thing this car's pretty tight with no rust holes or bad weather seal, or we'd probably be getting some fumes in here. Actually, sort of like the bit of a rumble that it's got, so I think I'd just do a straight pipe. I don't know if I'd put a muffler on it, give it a little bark. We're gonna run it into town here and grab some fuel. The needle on the gauge flutters and it's almost empty, so I want to make sure she's all the way fueled up. You just never know how accurate one of these gauges is going to be with the little resistance panel in there. So we're gonna get some gas in this thing and get a list, and by the time you're watching this video, the car probably will be at the mechanics getting some seals and getting some attention. I'm not sure, but I think even the AC is blowing cold. So this car's growing on me, and I think you might see it sticking around a while. Now, of course, one of these older carbureted cars, definitely want to go for the non-ethanol gas. It's really been a minute since I filled one out of the license plate before. I think the last car I probably did that on would have been my 87 Cutlass and probably the 80 Fairmont before that. 80 Fairmont was a very dismal car. Definitely want to clean up any of the spilled fuel. Wouldn't want to cause yellowing of the paint. Well, hot diggity, we have a working fuel gauge. She took 17 gallons, so as we like to say, she's fat and happy. Hopefully this car's not too thirsty. We'll see. Something like this, it's a collector vehicle. See limited use anyway, so it's probably not the type of thing that's really gonna eat you out of house and home. Definitely want to keep this thing going, keep it running, keep it fresh, drive it on pleasant weather days. Great thing about this car is it's not one of those that's really super valuable that you have to be real worried about preserving it. You just use it and drive it and have fun with it like an old car's intended. Here idling, and amazingly the smoke problem has cleared itself. When I first pulled this thing on the trailer, man, it was smoky, but it's really clean at the tailpipe. Another awesome thing, we're mid-morning and it's going to be 95 today, so it's starting to really heat up out here, and out the vents it is frosty. So this car is turning out to be a lot better than I expected, and maybe my $340 investment wasn't so bad after all. Uh-oh, the check engine light came on. We better have a look. Yep, still in there. Look at that condensation. Nice and frosty. So in that last video, I'd given you guys a bit of a teaser about getting to the truth of this car, and so when I was picking up this vehicle and I went through all the keys, and the guy was asking me, he said, hey, if you found a trunk key for that car, he said, let me look in there just out of curiosity, see what's in it. because one of the other vehicles, when they were getting ready for the auction, they had found $30,000 of silver and gold hidden in that car. Said, hey, the auction's over, you won the car. He said, whatever's in there is yours, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, great, whatever, however it comes. He said, I'm just really, really curious. And so I pulled a few things out, shuffled them around, didn't see anything, but I was kind of in a hurry to get out of there too, and I was like, I'm gonna have to take this thing home and like really pull it apart and search it. So that's the goal for right now. And the crazy thing about this car, there's the original trunk mat and then there's a piece of carpet, and so I want to get this all out and just see what we've got. Pardon the noise. These cicadas, just a little portable device that converts tree sap into ambient noise. So I'll start the search in the glove box. Just a lot of maps and receipts and fuel stops, computations and calculations. Guy was very meticulous. Mail call. And you just write down anything and everything. Now they said the one brother really kind of mistrusted the government, and I think they had money in banks, but not all of it. And there's some calculations right there. Gold, silver. Was this car a savings account? That's the only bad deal about one of these things, is dead men tell no tales, and their secrets unfortunately go with them. So it's up to us to dig around and find out what's going on. So that's what I intend to do. Well, I don't see any secret compartments. Looks like this is turning out to be a big zero. Nothing in the trunk except all this clutter. Probably some usable stuff in an emergency. I shook some of these boxes and it's pretty obvious not gold or silver in them. But boy howdy, this red one, when I picked it up, it was heavy and it jangled a little, and I thought, oh boy. But better than a kick in the teeth, I guess. That's the trunk. I'm going to give a little search in the interior, probably pull these back seat cushions out, and just see if there's anything else we can run across. Nothing. Penny and a dime. Hey, we got a build sheet though. Look at this. Alright, so I've extracted the build sheet, and this is what there was. There's no other pieces. Should have been some laying here, but my guess is that the seat was taken out once before and piece ripped off and probably lost to time. But the option list, which is probably the most important, at least on our end, all these things were codes that told the factory, hey, do this, do that, and really all that those matter much for would just be probably if a guy's restoring a high-end muscle car, which this obviously isn't, but at least for documentation, be able to look and see what else is here as far as the options. The night's winding down, and out of all this stuff, no gold or silver, but that's okay. Either way, I'm super happy with the car. Super noisy out here, so I'm going to take all the paperwork home. There's tons of it, and I'll go through that in the garage where it's quieter. Also did find this pretty cool little 8-track adapter, which got the 8-track player here. So step forward modern times to get the cassette. There's probably $3.41 worth of change in here, so I would get 1% of my investment back. As promised, in the peace and solitude of the garage, we've got the paperwork laid out, and sequence of this car's birth starts with the build sheet. Codes in the boxes correspond to individual component parts. So out on the assembly line when they were building the car and the workers were grabbing, say, a drive shaft or a brake drum or steering wheel, these are how they would know which ones to grab. And of course those correspond with the option codes, and it's pretty standard basic stuff. I got the power locks, and that notch back seat is basically not a split on the bottom, but it is split on the top. Pretty basic stuff. Moldings, carmine red vinyl top, rear window defroster, of course the air conditioning, remote mirror. This actually has a 241 rear axle, which is supposed to be the gas mileage axle, but we'll see here in a minute what the little notes for fuel consumption in the little notebooks say. Mr. Slitzbaum did take very, very good records and documentation, and he had notebooks full of all kinds of things in the car. So, of course, it's a diesel car, so you've got your engine block heater, of course, the upgraded alternator, got the tilt steering column, power steering. Now this actually was equipped with steel wheels and wheel covers, so someone at some point has swapped those wheels on. They were pretty common on 73 to 77, like Regals and Centuries, but I'm fairly sure they did stay on as an option later for these LeSabres, but I'm not certain of that. Actually is optioned with a steel hood, and you could get aluminum ones. I've never actually seen one. I did find a couple on Buick Regals once, but never on a LeSabre. It's got the UJ3 option for the water and fuel light, and it's also got a windshield antenna, which that's actually a really, really good piece of that car. There's stations like on the far south side of Wichita that it'll still pull in that on my modern late model vehicles are pretty scratchy. So big advantage on that windshield antenna. Of course, you got your capacity card there for the diesel engine. And then on any of these 70s and 80s cars, that warranty information really meant something, because at those times, boy, there were just a lot of dismal cars being built, and there was a lot of back and forth with the dealers for warranty work and things just not working properly. I know my mom bought a 1980 Ford Fiesta new, and it was just a dismal, terrible car. I had a 80 Fairmont that was a dismal, terrible car. I guess if it says anything about how good this LeSabre is on the little warranty sticker paper there, all 6 of the stickers are still there, so it apparently never was in for warranty work. So there's the name of the original owner that it was sold to. And of course, Shears is an asphalt contractor, and at that time they were just called J.H. Shears and Sons, as it says there, but now it's of course known as APAC Shears, and they do road constriction, and they're very good at constricting roads and slowing down traffic and occasionally re-asphalting them. So you see 6/7 of 80 was the delivery date, 249 miles at the time of delivery. So I actually, on this piece, flipped it over, and sure enough, it was delivered to Charlie Fisher Buick in Kansas City, Missouri. Of course, built at the Fairfax plant in Kansas City. So my guess on this one is that they might have picked it up locally there in Kansas City, probably to avoid a destination charge for the freight. Not sure on that. If any of you guys know any more about that, feel free to let us know in the comments. Of course, got more documentation, all the paper that goes along with this car. Got the 2 little information booklets there. There's pretty much every registration for this car. And then there's 1983, when it was still owned by Shears. So I got the title with a 1984 date on it, and it was sold, of course, just after this registration. Tons and tons of receipts for this car. You got the Kmart, batteries, tires, all of that type of thing. And they do other services on the cars. And then exhaustive notes as far as fuel mileage. So you can see there when he got the car, it was a diesel. And look at the prices in the gallons. Diesel is actually less than $1 a gallon at the time. And I can remember people would actually drive diesel cars because the diesel was less per gallon. And also being an oil, it had actually more energy per gallon, and so diesels at the time were considered very cost effective and efficient to run as far as the numbers are concerned. Then we go down here, got more notes, and in the gasoline years, averaging those gas mileage figures, you come out about 12 miles per gallon. Which really disappointing, especially considering that 241 axle ratio. You would think a car would do a little better than that. I did notice it wasn't like super quick on acceleration, so that would make sense with that rear axle. However, that car, once you gave it some time, it could potentially have pretty good top speed. So won't be any drag strip car, but a great cruiser, and up on the highways when you're just at full speed, be a good car. So here's a receipt for an engine rebuild. You've got timing chain, gaskets, valve seals, bearings, spark plugs, the whole deal. And to do all of that, parts and labor, they got in for $390. 1985. That's just crazy. Nowadays, people don't even rebuild engines on late model cars, which of course this one was 5 years old at the time. Nowadays, you'd be charged, probably $4,000 to replace one. And so people just dump these cars and throw them away. And that's essentially what late model cars are. But an antique like this, even if that Oldsmobile engine in there completely blew up and had rods hanging out of it, you could still swap something in there and keep on going. But these new ones, you sure can't say that about them. The only thing I don't know on this one is whether that was the original diesel engine that was rebuilt or a gas engine. So a little bit murky details as far as when this car was switched over to the gasoline engine. Then you see just shortly after there in 1986, so between August of 85 and January of 86, the transmission took a dump, and so they got a used one. The labor to install that transmission was a mere $75. Transmission itself for a used one was $175, and he was out that whole bill for $300. So engine rebuild and transmission replacement, $700 out the door in 1985 and 86. Little more information on Charlie Fisher Buick. That was actually in pretty much downtown Kansas City, there on Main Street. That dealership building, it was taken over by a Cadillac dealer that had been in business since like 1934. And right after that, the Cadillac dealer pretty much went under. So unfortunately, Charlie Fisher dealership was just a victim of circumstances and time, and that building is gone. There's now a car wash that sits there, and the rest of it's been pretty developed around there. There's a Home Depot and a McDonald's in that area, and you find that that's what happens a lot of times on these places. The land that a dealership sits on is worth more than the building itself. I know there's been a lot of fairly decent buildings that have been bought and knocked flat and new dealerships put in their place.